Bring up extrasensory perception, and most people immediately picture mediums, crystal balls, or science fiction movies. But hidden behind the pop culture stereotypes is a deeply serious 90-year academic hunt for the sixth sense, a field known as parapsychology, governed by rigorous laboratory observation and complex statistical analysis. This discipline is defined by what researchers call the psi paradox. For decades, parapsychologists have produced highly controlled experiments that yield statistically significant mathematical proof of abilities like telepathy or precognition. Yet mainstream academia entirely rejects these findings. The tension stems from a clash of methodologies. Parapsychologists are trying to use conventional, deterministic tools, calculators, probability models, and sensory instruments to measure a phenomenon that, by definition, operates outside of known biological and physical laws. This friction created a century-long methodological arms race. Believers continually invent tighter, more intricate experiments to capture evidence of psychic ability, and skeptics counter by meticulously exposing the hidden variables and physical leaks inside those exact same tests. Tracing this relentless cycle of proof and debunking reveals something entirely unexpected. The pursuit of extrasensory perception actually exposes the blind spots and vulnerabilities of the scientific method itself. The effort to quantify the paranormal began in earnest during the 1930s. Botanist J.B. Rhine arrived at Duke University, determined to drag the study of anomalous phenomena out of dark seance parlors and into the harsh light of an academic laboratory. Rhine collaborated on a standardized forced-choice tool, 25 cards featuring 5 distinct geometric shapes. By pure luck, subjects should guess correctly exactly 20% of the time. Yet across thousands of trials, some subjects maintained a 40% hit rate, doubling pure chance. When Rhine published his staggering numbers, the psychological establishment immediately fought back. Critics ignored the concept of a sixth sense, hunting instead for earthly variables that Rhine missed. The first culprit was the testing material. Early Zener cards were printed on thin paper stock. Under the bright lighting of a laboratory, subjects could see the faint outline of the symbols bleeding through the back of the cards. The second flaw was behavioral. In many trials, the researcher and the subject sat in the exact same room. Subjects were likely picking up unconscious physical cues, a subtle facial twitch or a sharp intake of breath from the experimenter whenever the right card appeared. The collapse of the Zener trials set a hard rule for all future parapsychology. To isolate a paranormal anomaly, human observation and physical proximity are massive liabilities. They had to be engineered entirely out of the testing room. By the 1970s, researchers developed a new theory. The repetitive, boring nature of guessing cards was actively suppressing psychic phenomena. They argued that extrasensory perception is actually a weak biological signal, completely drowned out by the intense sensory noise of modern life. To find this signal, researchers invented the Ganzfeld protocol. They isolated the sender and the receiver in completely separate, acoustically sealed rooms, eliminating any possibility of unconscious physical cues. The receiver was subjected to a bizarre state of mild sensory deprivation. Halved ping-pong balls were taped over their eyes under a blinding red floodlight to create a uniform visual field, while headphones pumped continuous white noise into their ears. With physical distractions erased, receivers reported their internal imagery, while senders tried to mentally transmit a target picture. Meta-analyses of these trials reported a hit rate of 35%, comfortably beating the statistical expectation of 25%. Yet again, skeptics found the leak. During the scoring phase, human judges physically handled the target images alongside decoy images. Microscopic creases and fingerprints left on the correct targets were unconsciously cueing the receivers to pick the right answer. Human touch was still corrupting the data. Entering the 21st century, the replicability crisis forced a massive technological shift. Parapsychologists realized that to definitively prove their case, they had to remove human beings from the testing mechanisms altogether. Enter the Otto Ganzfeld. Today, artificial intelligence and natural language processing tools are deployed to mathematically score a subject's recorded visions against digital target images. The algorithm decides the hit rate, stripping away the bias of a human judge. The field has also abandoned basic psychological tests in favor of direct biological mapping. Researchers utilize fMRI and EEG machines to search the brain's physical hardware, hunting for the exact neural pathways that light up during anomalous cognition. They are even using transcranial magnetic stimulation to physically inhibit the brain's temporoparietal junction, an area associated with the sense of self, to see if temporarily shutting down a subject's spatial awareness enhances precognitive accuracy. The arms race has escalated from hiding printed cards under a desk to physically hacking the human cortex. Every step forward is an attempt to bypass the inherent unreliability of the human mind. But here is the ultimate reality of the paradox. Despite nearly a century of escalating technological controls, artificial intelligence, and biological mapping, the field has failed to produce a gold standard, independently replicable proof of extrasensory perception. Outside the laboratory, public belief in psychics remains incredibly strong, but mainstream psychology points out that basic cognitive biases and cold reading techniques, like offering vague, generalized statements that subjects eagerly apply to themselves, easily manufacture the illusion of supernatural knowledge. However, the ESP arms race did produce a profound scientific breakthrough. In their ruthless attempts to debunk psychic studies, statisticians realized that the exact same questionable practices used to hunt for telepathy, like collecting data until a favorable result appears and then suddenly stopping, were actually being used by mainstream scientists to prop up accepted psychological theories. 90 years of testing never yielded a reproducible superpower, but by forcing the academic community to meticulously dismantle every conceivable experimental error, parapsychology acted as a massive, accidental stress test. The rigorous debunking of psychic claims helped birth the modern open science movement, ultimately saving mainstream research from its own illusions.